member for Wajir North, you appear lost. I think those of you who appear to be lost, why don't you just freeze? We continue with the business. So, honourable members, wish to make this short communication. Pursuant to the provision starting under 244, paragraph C, on pronouncement of budget highlights and revenue-raising measures, the Cabinet Secretary responsible for finance is required to make public pronouncements of the budget policy highlights and revenue-raising measures for the national government in the National Assembly as contemplated under the Public Finance Management Act. Honourable members, in this regard, I wish to inform the House that I have received a letter from the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury requesting to make public pronouncements on the budget highlights and revenue-raising measures for the national government for the financial year 2020-2021 in the House on Thursday, June 11th, 2020. I've since acceded to the request, and therefore the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury will make public his public pronouncement of the budget highlights and revenue-raising measures for the national government for the financial year 2020-2021 on Thursday, 11th June 2020 at 3 p.m. In this regard, honourable members, and in keeping with the Speaker's guidelines on the conduct of plenary sittings during the COVID-19 pandemic period issued on 2nd and 11th of April 2020, I wish to inform the House that the leadership of the House, members of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, chairpersons of departmental committees, as well as chairpersons of other select committees will be accommodated in the chamber. The rest of the membership may follow the proceedings from the designated areas within the precincts of Parliament or from their other places of abode. Now, members, you are encouraged to be present during this important event that is synchronized with the budget cycles of the rest of the East African community. The budget highlights will focus mainly on ways and means of financing the budget for 2020-2021 and in the medium term, prior to the House concluding the Committee of Supply. I thank you, honourable members.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Honourable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, June the 2nd, 2020, in the afternoon sitting. A, the legal notice number 71 of 2020 relating to the public health, COVID-19 restriction of movements of persons and related measures, Mandera County, Order 2020, and the explanatory memorandum. 2, legal notice number 72 of 2020 relating to the public health, in bracket COVID-19 restriction of movements of persons and related measures, Nairobi Metropolitan Area Extension, Order 2020, and the explanatory memoranda. 3, the legal notice number 73 of 2020 relating to the public health, in bracket COVID-19 restriction of movement of persons and related measures, Mombasa County, Extension Order 2020, and the explanatory memorandum. 4, the legal notice number 74 of 2020 relating to the public health, bracket COVID-19 restriction of movement of persons and related measures, Kilifi County, Extension Order 2020, and the memorandum attached. 5, legal notice number 75 of 2020 relating to the public health, COVID-19 restriction of movement of persons and related measures, Kwale County, Extension Order 2020, and the memorandum attached. 6, legal notice number 77 of 2020 relating to the public health, COVID-19 restriction of movements of persons and related measures, Dadaab Refugee Complex and Kakuma Refugee Camp, Order 2020, and the explanatory memoranda. 7, legal notice number 83 of 2020 related to the public health in bracket COVID-19 restriction of movements of persons and related measures, Isli Area Order 2020 and the explanatory memoranda. 8, legal notice number 84 of 2020 relating to the public health COVID-19 restriction of movement of persons and related measures in bracket Mombasa Old Town Order 2020 and the memorandum attached. Items A to H, Mr. Speaker, that I have read will go to delegated legislation as you have directed usually. 9, bilateral service agreement between the Republic of Kenya and Russian Federation and the explanatory memorandum. H, and this should be referred to the Transport and Public Works Housing Committee. 10, reports to Parliament of all new loans contracted by the Government of Kenya from September 1st, 2019 to 30th April 2020, and this will go to the Budget and Appropriation Committee. 11, the annual performance report for the financial year 2018-2019 from the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development pursuant to Article 153, subsection 4A and E and B of the Constitution, to be referred to the Committee of Trade and Cooperatives. 12, the quarterly economic and budgetary review report in the 2019-2020 financial year for the period ending on 31st March 2020, to be referred to the Budget and Appropriation Committee. 12, the biannual report for the Commission on Administrative Justice for the period January to June of 2019 and July to December of 2019, to be referred to JLAC. And finally, Mr. Speaker, list of nominees to 41 National Government Constituency Development Fund committees from the National Government Constituency Development Fund Board for the following constituencies: Garsen, Kabondo Kasipul, Turkana West, Balambala, Eldas, Gatanga, Homa Bay Town, Kilgoris, Malindi, Madare, Mboni, Nambale, Westlands, Bahati, Bamachoge Chache, Ishugu, Machakos Town, Mandera East, Matuga, Rongai, Vihiga, Hamisi, Keses, Kiamba, Kikuyu, Lari, Nakuru Town West, Rabai, Suba North, Tharaka, Voi, Baringo Central, Jomvu, Kiminini, Kisumu West, Kurusoi South, Laikipia East, Samburu East, Sirisia, Tindret, and Uriri, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Chairman, Public Investments Committee.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. A report on consideration of the Special Audit Report on procurement of the Pre-Export Verification of Conformity, PVOC, to standard service for used motor vehicles, mobile equipment, and used spare parts by the Kenya Bureau of Standards.
Well, next one.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Chair, PIC.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that the House adopts the report on consideration of the Special Audit Report on procurement of pre-export verification of conformity to standard services for used motor vehicles, mobile equipment, and used spare parts by the Kenya Bureau of Standards, laid on the table of the House today on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020.
Yes, Leader Majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 28, subsection 4, this House resolves to further alter its calendar in bracket regular sessions for the fourth session 2020 as amended on Tuesday, April 14th, 2020, and resolves to A, suspend its sittings of Wednesday morning and afternoon during the month of June 2020 and the sitting of July 1st, 2020. And B, hold sittings during the month of June 2020 as follows. Roman 1, morning and afternoon sittings on Tuesday of 9th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th June 2020, beginning at 10 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. respectively. And Roman 2, afternoon sittings on Thursdays of 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th June 2020 at 2:30 p.m. And C, hold a sitting on Thursday, 2nd July 2020 at 2:30 p.m.
Chair, National Government Constituency Development Fund.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion that I move closer. I don't know whether I'm in right distance. I can repeat. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion that pursuant to the provisions of Section 43(4) and Regulations 510 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund 2015, this House approves the list of nominees for the appointment to the following 41 constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, June the 2nd, 2020. Gariseni, Kabondo Kasipul, Turkana West, Balambala, Erodas, Gatanga, Homa Bay Town, Kirugoris, Malindi, Madare, Boni, Nambale, Westlands, Bahati, Bomachoge, Chache, Gishugu, Machakos Town, Mandera East, Matuga, Rongai, Vihiga, Hamisi, Keses, Kiamba, Kikuyu, Lari, Nakuru Town West, Rabai, Suba North, Tharaka, Voi, Baringo Central, Jomvu, Kiminini, Kisumu West, Kuresoi South, Laikipia East, Samburu East, Sirisia, Tinderet, and Uriri. Thank you.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Member for Mvita.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 44-2C, I wish to make a statement regarding government directive compelling all operators to have cargo for local market and transit to the hinterland by rail through the standard gauge railway to the newly established Naivasha Inland Container Depot, NICD, for your guidance on the best approach to handle the matter. Honorable Speaker, last year, all government agencies and departments and all other operators were directed to transport all their cargo from the port of Mombasa through the standard gauge railway, a matter which I raised in this House, and you gave directions to be investigated by the relevant committee and report. The findings were that the said directive published on 6th of August 2019 was suspended, a position that has also been confirmed by the ministry as this is a matter of national interest. Honorable Speaker, on May 26, 2020, the government through KRA notified all cargo operators at the port of Mombasa, who includes partner states of Uganda and Rwanda. The KRA has commenced movement of transit cargo from the port of Mombasa to the newly established Naivasha Inland Container Depot as from 1st of June 2020. The reasons given are that there is need to decongest the port of Mombasa, improve efficiency at the facility, and further, Mr. Speaker, to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. This means that all owners of cargo, both private and public, as well as clearing agents, will clear and collect their cargo at the Naivasha depot, as a list of cargo has already been transferred to this facility. Honorable Speaker, arising from the above notice, a number of issues have arisen from the implementation of this new directive, where cargo is to be cleared and collected at the said facility. Among them is a lack of giving operators an option of transiting to the new process and equally choosing a mode of transportation of their choice, unclear cost of railing cargo by the SGR, fears that the final cost of goods will be affected while road transport may be cheaper. This, Mr. Speaker, is a deliberate effort by government to put road transport companies out of business and generally harm the entire economy of the coastal region. Currently, Honorable Speaker, there is already an issue which is brewing between Kenya and its biggest trading partner, the Republic of Uganda, and of course cargo operators from the neighboring countries, that the option of using the Naivasha Inland Container Depot for transit cargo does not reduce human or congestion, as drivers still have to pick cargo from Naivasha to their destinations. Therefore, the use of NICD be optional for all operators. Honorable Speaker, it is therefore against this background that I seek your direction on this matter, that a full inquiry be undertaken to address the impact of the proposed notice on transit cargo and hinterland cargo, that they are to be made in phases rather than by rapid transition. I therefore request the government to undertake an inquiry on how to sustain the SGR, to provide the latest statistics on the cost and usage of the SGR, and clarify who should use the SGR exclusively, as it is important to have a liberal market where private businesses can choose the mode of ensuring goods reach the intended destinations or customers. The other matters that need to be addressed, Honorable Speaker, are: 1. What informed the notice on transit cargo by the Minister of Transport, Urban Development, Housing and Infrastructure with regard to the current economic problems bedeving the sector? 2. What is causing the true congestion at the port of Mombasa, and what plans are there to reduce the congestion as well as address the port efficiency? 3. How is addressing the COVID-19 pandemic a measure of decongesting the port of Mombasa? 4, Mr. Speaker, whether the notice on this cargo issued is contrary to the Competition Act. And 5, finally, Mr. Speaker, why could the ministry allow cargo operators and clearing agents the option of choosing the Naivasha Inland Container Depot or use any other facility that is acceptable by law? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
So which committee is going to investigate that? You have not directed, you've indicated that you want me to give direction.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, considering that this is something that had already been dealt with the Transport Committee, and equally as well, that this now involves the Competition Act, as I had stated, it is why I am requesting your discretion, whether it should be both finance and equally transport as well.
Why not implementation?
Or trade. Or implementation. I agree that would be first an implementation committee, yes, sir.
Yeah, I think because if the House has already resolved in a particular way, then what remains is implementation. So the Committee on Implementation should get seized of your request and check what was the decision reached in the first instance.
I stand guarded, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Honorable Savula. The Honorable Owen Bayer.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44.2c, I wish to request for a statement for the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning regarding curfew and inter-county cessation of movement, the partial lockdown in the country. Honorable Speaker, the certain regions of the country, among them Nairobi, Mombasa, Kilifi, and Kwale, have not only been put under curfew, but also cessation of movement. The people in the coastal counties are bearing more economic and life disruptions than any other parts of the country and therefore require more governmental relief interventions. Honorable Speaker, it is against this backdrop that I seek a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning on the following. 1. What measures has the relevant ministry put in place to mitigate against the economic disruptions caused by the curfew and cessation of movement in Kilifi County? What relief food program has the government put in place to ensure that the people of Kilifi do not starve to death? What special assistance has the national government put in place to cushion the county government of Kilifi in managing the medical supplies and personnel? What special program has the national government put in place to cushion the workers who are laid off in the tourism and hotel industries in Kilifi County? And lastly, how much money was allocated to the county government of Kilifi for the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I don't seem to see the Chair of Finance, the Honorable Limo. The request will be forwarded to the committee via the Office of the Leader Majority. Now it's well over 30 minutes since the House resumed, and therefore, Sergeant at Arms, you allow any member who desires to come into the chamber, including the Honorable Owen Bayer, if he desires to remain in the chamber. There was some responses. The Honorable Paul Koinange, he was to respond to a request for a statement by the Honorable Elijah Memusi. The Honorable Koinange, are you ready?
Speaker, I'm ready. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wish to make the following statement on the movement of the people and livestock across the Kenya-Tanzania-Namanga border point. Honorable Speaker, the Member of Parliament for Kajiado Central constituency, Honorable Elijah Memusi, has requested for statement on the movement of people and livestock across the Kenya-Tanzania-Namanga border point. He particularly sought to be informed on, 1, the step the government is putting in place to contain crossing of people and livestock across the Kenya-Tanzania border points, especially at Namanga border point during this pandemic. 2, whether the government is considering closing down the movement of people in Namanga and Isabania border points, among others, only with exception of essential services, goods and services. Yeah, Honorable Speaker, I wish to state as follows. The government has employed the following measures to contain crossing of people and livestock across the Kenya-Tanzania border points during this pandemic period. 1, cessation of all movement of persons in and out of country except returning citizens who must undergo mandatory 14 days quarantine and test for COVID-19. 2, transporters of cargo must undergo mandatory testing for COVID-19 and produce a certificate to allow them enter the country. And thirdly, all the livestock markets across the country have been closed. Honorable Speaker, as stated above, the government has issued directive of cessation of movement across the borders, except for drivers of essential goods. These include the Namanga and Isabania borders points. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Memusi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And also let me thank the chairperson of Departmental Committee of Security, Honorable Koinange, for that response. But Honorable Speaker, my major concern was on Panya routes, which I've not seen any effort by government agencies to try and man some of these Panya routes. Giving directions for people not to get into the country through the non-entry points has been done, and that is okay. But Honorable Speaker, I would like the chairperson to make an effort to make sure that security teams are patrolling or are manning the Panya routes that are known, because these are Panya routes that people know, and we continue seeing people from the other side and also our people from Kenya crossing to Tanzania. So my major concern, Honorable Speaker, is on the Panya routes. They are still not manned. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, if it is also possible, but I know this is a new concern, but Honorable Speaker, if you allow me, the truck drivers who are coming into the country, before they get tested, they are interacting freely with the people of Namanga. And this, Honorable Speaker, poses a great danger to spreading the COVID disease. So, Honorable Speaker, I request also that we put measures in place to put these drivers who, before they are tested, let them be secluded somewhere so that they stop interacting with the people freely. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Of course, you talked about Panya routes. I suppose then we may have to engage cats. We may have to get cats to deal with the Panyas. Honorable Koinange, would you wish to respond briefly?
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. And as you may recall, Honorable Speaker, some time back, we also wanted to visit that area in Namanga because we are also very concerned. And Honorable Speaker, I want to assure Honorable Memusi that we are going to see it and see what we can do about the Panya route. And of course, the drivers who are coming from Tanzania to Kenya, make sure that they are tested before they interact. Of course, it's very difficult to stop that, but we'll see what we can do. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
What's your point? But you have not put on intervention, Honorable Mbui.
Chair, I'm a bit concerned about the language that the Honorable Chair and also Honorable Memusu have used, which has gone to the Hansard. This question that you've also raised of Panya routes. I think, Mr. Speaker, maybe we need to confirm what Panya routes are so that in future, if anyone is to read this Hansard about today's deliberations, they can know what we are talking about, Mr. Speaker. Maybe they need to clarify so that they don't use, I think it's unparliamentary, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Memusi, you wish to explain what those routes are?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Obviously, anybody who understands Swahili knows that
yes,
Panya
anybody,
to a rat.
but just for record purposes, Honorable Speaker, these are informal routes that are used, Honorable Speaker. I thank you. Yes, many definitions are being given, illegal routes, informal routes. Yes, I think we get the point, Honorable Speaker.
So Panya route, for the benefit of the Honorable Mbui, shall mean and include illegal, informal, casual, is it? That's what the Honorable Ngwenyi is referring to. Anyhow, all those kind of routes that are not the formal ones. Honorable Koinange, you are also to respond to the request by the Honorable Gishimo.
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me respond to Honorable Geshimo Gedenji. Yeah, and I wish to state as follows, Honorable Speaker. The Member of Parliament for Geshogo constituency, Honorable Geshimo Gedenji, has requested for statement on the state of welfare of the village elders, block leaders, and Nyumba Kumi leaders from during the COVID-19 pandemic. He particularly sought to be informed on the measures that have been taken to ensure that, one, the village elders, block leaders, and Nyumba Kumi volunteers are provided with requisite protective gear such as face masks, gloves, soaps, and sanitizers for their use in course of discharge their duties during the period of COVID-19.
work on the ground is very, very important, irrespective whether they were regarded as the front people or whatever frontline workers. In fact, then it begs the question whether the government still requires to utilize these people going forward for all other communications and works on the ground. However, Mr. Speaker, I also note that there was a motion in this parliament, and I believe there's a high time that probably I or any other person may have come with a law that also protects these people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and at least I have something to respond to my people.
Very well. What budget for what? No, there's one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the elders and the Nyumbakumi people they provide a very important service in this country on the matter of social security, on the matters of the welfare of the people. Mr. Speaker, I call upon this House to provide in the budget, this coming budget, some money, some payments to these people. They are providing a very important service, and yet we don't pay them nothing. Mr. Speaker, that's my suggestion, and I'm asking the committee concerned to come out with a budget for this type of people.
Very well. Looks like is this Oboko Milemba? You know, yes, yes, Honorable Oboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It gives me a chance, Honorable Speaker, as I thank you for this opportunity to actually say that yes, there was a motion in this House that tried to deliberate on the issues of the Nyumbakumi people, specifically the village elders and Nyumbakumi people. But from the answer given, the truth is that some of the points even stated are not very correct, because these village elders were not given any facilities. You know, we actually come from places where they live, and they are not having sanitizers, they're not having PPEs, but, Honorable Speaker, for the sake of the House, they are actually part and parcel of the officers who actually are on the front line when it comes to stopping either gatherings in the village like funerals, because we are staying there, or any other happenings of that nature. So my thinking was that the contributions that are going towards the coronavirus pandemic, some allocation should be given from that particular one in the meantime, as we do the law, to actually support the village elders and Nyumbakumi people as part of the front line workers, and they should be classified in that particular line. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Who is that now? Honorable Bukose. Very well.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Nyumbakumi, the elders in the village, they're actually frontline workers in as far as this COVID-19 issue is concerned, because what happens is that they are the first people to report who is the stranger within that village. And they are the ones who will be able to inquire where this person has come from, and even take the first history of where this person has come from, and if it is a risk to the community. Because what we now know is that this is a disease that is foreign. It came through the aircraft, it landed in our country, and it has been spread within the community. So I think it will be important, Chair, Chair Internal Security, National Security, to see how these Nyumba Kumi elders can be incorporated in this fight against the COVID-19. Because if we are to improve on our preventive measures, this is actually a critical area that we need to be able to control so that we can be able to control this disease. In as far as even in my constituency is concerned, we've actually used them to be the ones who are distributing even the hand sanitizers. Or when we get even the masks, we are using them to be able to distribute to the community. And they are the ones who will even know who is sick and who is not sick. So I think it's an area that as a parliament, let's give them some support. If they can be given some facilitation, they just need facilitation during this time, then they can be a critical area within the fight against the COVID-19. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Now, there's some other consideration.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, remember there is not debate.
The answer from Honorable...
There is a motion which is on the order paper, debate, and I'm sure during debate on that one, a lot of these issues you are saying about village elders and others could very well be covered. If we go to discuss that, debate that motion.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The answer from Honorable Paul Koinange is not satisfactory, Honorable Speaker, because there is a COVID-19 fund, which of course this House did not give itemized budget. And Nyumba Kumi people and elders, Honorable Speaker, during this time of cessation of movement, are the ones that identify strangers who have moved from areas that there is cessation of movement, probably from Nairobi to Narok to other areas, Honorable Speaker, and they come into contact with them. Honorable Speaker, we also have 200 million that have been set aside to cushion the poor, vulnerable persons with disability, Honorable Speaker. We have used the Nyumba Kumi elders to identify this particular group. We have used in this cash transfer and cushioning to identify this group. Honorable Speaker, they are at risk. We can classify them as a house as essential services, because if they have to go to every house to go and do the identification of the vulnerable people that will benefit from cash transfer, if they are the ones that come into contact with those who have moved from areas of epicenters of COVID-19, Honorable Speaker, they are at risk. And since we did not itemize the COVID-19 fund, then it is the duty of Paul Konange and the Interior Security Ministry to make sure that they are given at least something to cater for the work they are doing. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honourable members, I'm sure you know me. When I tell you this is not business, this is not business. And I'm sure, because there are so many of you who want to contribute to this, why don't you just wait to get to the motion appearing as order number 11? Because what you are saying is would go a long way to enrich this motion. So that what you are saying is not lost, because you are just reacting to a statement. But I'm sure if you address this when you are debating the motion, it will fit in very well. I'm not saying that you don't discuss about village elders and other like villagers, but you just put it in that motion. I think it will enrich it. The Honorable Manso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 43, I wish to make a statement regarding the sad demise of the Honorable Peter Lee Nyamasio Keilu, elder of Barney Spear, a former member of Parliament from Makueni constituency, which occurred on Tuesday, 19th May 2020. Honorable Speaker, the late Honorable Peter Keilu was an accomplished scholar, being a holder of bachelor's degree in government and sociology from the University of Nairobi, and several certificates on public policy, governance, and administration from various institutions, including the Kenya School of Government, formerly the Kenya Institute of Administration, University of Birmingham in the United Kingdom, Harvard University, the J.F. Kennedy School of Government in the United States of America, the Galilee International Management Institute in Israel, among others. Honorable Speaker, before successfully contesting as a member of parliament for Makueni constituency in 2007, the late Honorable Peter Kiilu was a dedicated public administrator. Following his graduation from the University of Nairobi, Peter briefly taught at a local village secondary school before he joined the public service, where he served as a district officer, DO, from 1977 to 1983, and a district officer. He served in various stations including Elgeyo Marakwet, Kericho, Turkana, Nakuru, Uasin Gishu, among other districts. In 1983, he was promoted to rank of district commissioner, where he served as various stations including Siaya, Turkana, Nandi district. In 1991, he was promoted to a provincial commissioner, where he served in several provinces including Nyanza, Northeastern, Coast, Central, and Western provinces. In the year 2003 to 2006, he served as the Deputy Secretary of the Public Service Commission, where he retired from public administration. Honorable Speaker, in recognition of his distinguished and honorable service in public administration, he was awarded a state commendation in the class of Elder of the Bani Spear, EBS. In addition, the late Honorable Kiilu served as a member of parliament for Makueni constituency with valor. While at the National Assembly, he served as the Vice Chairperson of the Department Committee of Administration and National Security, member of the House Broadcasting Committee, as well as other ad hoc committees. In January 2014, he was appointed by His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta as the Chairperson of Water Resources Management Authority, WARMA. After the expiry of his tenure as a chairperson of WARMA, he retired from active service but continued to serve his local community in various capacities until his demise. Honorable Speaker, I wish to take this opportunity on my behalf and that of the people of Makueni constituency to convey my deepest condolences to the family and friends of the late Honorable Peter Kiilu. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Honorable David Ochieng.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on Standing Order number 1, Standing Orders 172, 173, through to 176. Mr. Speaker, on the 29th of last month, I received a letter from the Office of the Minority Whip, which letter purported to communicate the intention of the minority side of this House, what was referred to as the Minority Parliamentary Group, to discharge me from the Committee of Health of this House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want you to allow me to request you to make a ruling on this letter I received, because I don't know how to respond to it, largely because I don't belong to the minority side or the majority side. I don't belong to NASA, neither do I belong to Jubilee. But Mr. Speaker, this was something that was well publicized, and so the neck of the party that I belong to has been wondering, did David Ochieng enter a secret agreement with NASA in the House? Has the MDG signed a surreptitious agreement with NASA in the House without the NEC knowing? So, Mr. Speaker, allow me to address you on this matter so that it can be rested. So, Speaker, the role of committees in any assembly cannot be gainsaid. In fact, writing in 1885, this is what Wilson Woodrow had to say about committees. He said this, that it's not far from the truth to say that Congress in session is Congress on public exhibition, whilst Congress in its committees, in its committee rooms, is Congress at work. So, Mr. Speaker, I find myself in a very unique situation that I'm the only member of parliament of the party that I belong to. And so the issue arises whether being the only member of parliament and therefore belonging to a party that will not be referred to legally as a parliamentary party, do I belong to any committee? Can I be allocated a committee, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, when this communication was made to me, there was a live broadcast where the minority leader of the minority whip in this house alleged that I went to his office and begged for a committee from him. So, Speaker, there is a procedure in this house for nominating members and allocating members to committees. This procedure, Mr. Speaker, is captured under Standing Orders 172 through to 176. Mr. Speaker, no member of parliament, whether the majority leader or the minority, can allocate another member committee. No. It's a process that culminates into approval by this house. In fact, you can't remember, even if the committee of selection allowed you to be in a committee, that must be approved by this house. And so I've always believed that my membership in the health committee was a membership that was appointed by this house, not by an individual, at least not through begging. I want to say it beforehand that if my belonging to the health committee is because the ODM party or anybody donated it to me, I reject it. I don't want it. I don't deserve it. Because this house has rules. And Mr. Speaker, as regards small parties, this is what Standing Order 174(2) says. That despite paragraph 1, a member belonging to a party other than a parliamentary party or independent member may be nominated to serve in a select committee, and the allocation of membership of select committees shall be as nearly as practicable proportional to the number of members belonging to such parties and independent members. Mr. Speaker, Standing Order 174(2) basically breathes life into the standing orders what the Constitution says. Article 10 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, is very clear about the governing principles, our values: inclusivity, equity, equality, non-discrimination, taking care of marginalized groups. That's what that standing order does. Mr. Speaker, there are 290 constituencies in this country. These 290 constituencies are equal. And so if we know the reason committees are there, and all of us know that most of the work Parliament does happens in the committee, is it possible, for example, Mr. Speaker, for the minority side to say that because that is one member of Parliament from a region where we control, he can't belong to a committee unless he talks to us? Mr. Speaker, it means that next time, then you not will even tell me where to sit in this house because I'm a minority. Mr. Speaker, you know, history is very important. When you're born in a rich family and you are told that your father used to ride a bicycle, you may not believe. In 1996-7, a man we respect so much, the Enigma, Baba, was the only member of his party in this house, only member of NDP in this house, and he was in a committee. In the ensuing elections in 1997, he came back with more than 20 members in his party. So I want to ask you that beware what we wish for. Because I could be one member in my party today, but tomorrow Sona East could go to MDG. So, Speaker, how did I end up in the health committee? After the elections by-elections in last year, Mr. Speaker, I came to your office to inquire on how I get to a committee. And consultation with yourself and the majority leader, Mr. Speaker, it was agreed that because it will be untidy at that time to open up all committee memberships, Mr. Speaker, I will replace the member that I replaced in my constituency in the health committee, not as a donation from any party, but pursuant to Standing Order 174(2). So, Speaker, the question then begs, can the minority group, which I don't belong to, purport to discharge my membership of the health committee? MDG has never signed a coalition agreement with NASA. We don't affiliate with them. So, Speaker, for the last 1 year I've been in this house, and there's no single day where I've seen either the minority whip or the majority leader coming to me where I sit to whip me or to tell me what to do, because they know I don't belong to their party. And so, Mr. Speaker, I don't understand. I know that at this period in time, there is excitement about trying to link people with William Ruto, something that I've done in the campaigns in Kenya so many times. Mr. Speaker, you can do that in the public domain. You're allowed, but you cannot do it to willy-nilly break the law. Mr. Speaker, I would therefore request, Mr. Speaker, your ruling on the following, to cut it to the chase. Mr. Speaker, one, whether in view of Articles 10 and 97 of the Constitution, a member of the National Assembly can be excluded from allocation and serving in committees of the Assembly because they belong to an unparliamentary party. Number two, whether, in view of the provisions of Standing Order number 174-2, a member of Parliament belonging to an unparliamentary party is entitled to allocations and to serve in a select committee. Three, whether in view of the provisions of Standing Order 174-2, a member of Parliament belonging to an parliamentary party must caucus with or affiliate himself or herself with the majority minority parties to get allocated to serve in a select committee. Speaker, number four, whether the allocation and service of myself in the Health Committee is a donation by the minority coalition, where my party, MDG, is neither a member nor affiliated to the minority coalition. Five, whether the minority coalition can discharge me from the membership of the Health Committee. And finally, Mr. Speaker, whether the Committee on Selection has acted equitably in allocating me to serve in only one select committee, while other members of Parliament serve in up to 3 committees. Mr. Speaker, I believe that your termination of this matter, Mr. Speaker, will set the record straight and will, in a way, set the rules clear for the future. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, the Honorable Leader of the Minority Party,